You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with your hosts, Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How are you? Mike Sempervive here with you. Brian Alvarez is not here with you. He's on a plane to Hawaii. It's a good way to shake off the WrestleMania hangover. Are you hungover? I'm a little hungover. All the buzz is starting to go away now again. We got ratings talk. Well, we don't have ratings talk. We can talk about whatever the hell we want. 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. And I suggest we do so. But it's like ratings talk, AEW talk, WWE personnel talk. So we're kind of right back to where we are again, the everyday grind of doing the show. Not that I'm complaining at all. But, you know, after all the hype and everything, so much different eclectic stuff taking place all over New York City this weekend, you know, it's tough to come back around again. I even watched NXT UK yesterday, which is a show I never usually watch, just to try to keep the feels going for a couple more days. Although a lot of the video and TV you're going to see from a lot of different companies and everything are going to be, it's going to be emanating out of last weekend anyway. Like Ring of Honor and such. The NXT show last night, which I haven't seen yet, were matches that came from Access in Brooklyn. So you'll be able to keep the spirit for a little while longer. Back to the normal everyday grind. But if you do still have any thoughts on the weekend, because one thing we haven't really touched on this show is Ring of Honor and New Japan and some of the other indie shows that took place. So if you still want to opine about some of that stuff and some of the fun you had there, I'd really like to hear it. Got a lot actually going on, though. It's a lot of little things. Road Dogg gone from WWE as head SmackDown lead writer. Artie Evans gone. Quit or was fired. We'll get into that. And a lot of other things as well, too. On Twitter, I'm at Sempervive. At Sports Byline USA, at WONF4W. This is Wrestling Observer Live. Well, that's the last you're going to hear of Bro for a while. Last you're going to hear of Brian Alvarez, too. He gone. Wrestling Observer Live, Mike Sempervive here with you, though, at least. I'm here with you every single day, even if Brian's on vacation somewhere or pretending that he's working. Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, noon Pacific, 7 GMT. Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 10 GMT, for those of you listening internationally. Thank you if you are. No matter how you're listening, whether it's through the American Forces Radio Network or podcast, any of that stuff. Really appreciate you spending your time with me and producer Dom, hiding behind the glass right now. Had to drop in that bro, because he really misses Brian, because we're going to make him work today. When you call 1-800-878-PLAY, ask him how the San Francisco Giants are doing. He loves them. I don't know why, but he does. Nick in Vermont. Nick, how are you?
Not too bad, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm trying to make it, my man. What's going on?
Oh, not too much. I had a question for you about the T.J. Dillashaw suspension.
About the EPO, I hope you're not asking for any sort of like doctor's analysis of it, because the only thing I know is cyclists use it and it's really expensive.
I was going to ask kind of how it compares to like the Austrian that Tom Lawler failed for and the Tyranobol that John Jones is supposedly pulsing, if you can see my air quotes around pulsing.
I mean, when it comes to steroids and all that sort of stuff, I'm not real sure on how everything works. You know, Ostrine is a SARM. You know, that was somehow different than a steroid. And again, the nuts and bolts and how all of these things work, unfortunately, I don't know. The one thing I knew about EPO is what people have talked about for a long time. You know, we hear it on this show because of Dave Meltzer being involved in studying the stuff and comparing it to other sports. But outside of this show, really, cycling is one of the sports, and there's a couple others. Really, it's around Olympic time where it comes up. So, you know, unfortunately, I can't give you too much information that way or anything like that. But, you know, what it has been very, very difficult to test for and very difficult to fail for. Chael Sonnen he's been one of the more notable people, too, in the fight game. And now Dillashaw has, and he's going to be out 2 years. And what that has done is, and Dave talked about this a little bit on Wrestling Observer Radio last night, and it's a natural thing that happens, especially in the case like Dillashaw, where you look at the guy and you say that there's an eye test that body-wise, hey, I wonder if this guy was on stuff his entire career, and it really throws deep shade over to the entirety of his career. So, you know, I'm sorry I can't help you out more with that one, Nick, but that's about the best I got on it.
The USADA thing really, I find it to be a joke now since the whole John Jones thing. They really, it's kind of embarrassing that they would suspend Dillashaw, but because with the proof they have, but with Jones and all the past, no, they aren't going to suspend him.
Yeah, Nick, I want to thank you very much for the call. It's it's one of those things with USADA. It's like, well, since USADA has come in, more people are failing than ever before, including for things like EPO. But then you see the flip side of it, and the flip side of it is boxing. And I still remember way back, you know, this is around really kind of around the time The Ultimate Fighter blew up. And I remember those initial commercials that they had on the radio where it's like, you know, people will be harmed in the making of our show. You know, kind of the takeoff on the warning at the end. And I remember hearing people that were they were excited and that, hey, this is going to be different. All the mistakes that boxing had ever made. We are not going to make those mistakes. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If it's the same tree, the exact same tree. Now, it depends on what branch it goes off of, you know, but still. K1 boxing, all those sorts of combat sports, especially when they are licensed by the states and they have involvement and there's money to be made, as we've seen in the past in Nevada when it comes to the licensings of Mike Tyson or the licensing of Floyd Mayweather Jr., or James Toney being able to tell, I believe it was the California State Athletic Commission, grab his fat and go, do I look like I use steroids? It's like, this is where we're at. Josh Barnett missing 3, I think it was, consecutive meetings. It was like just in a big mental shell game that he was putting on with the commissions. It's just going to be what it is. It's combat sports. And the same way you're always going to have some undesirable folks floating around combat sports, the same way you're going to have some really carny, huckster, yet colorful and charismatic promoters. It's just the way it's going to be. You're going to get all that sort of stuff. So that's how it goes. But we'll keep it in the phone lines right now. Pat in Knoxville. Pat, how are you?
Doing well. What's up, buddy? How are you doing?
I'm not going to complain too much. Now, are you a longtime resident of famous wrestling city, Knoxville, Tennessee?
My whole life, 34 years.
How's Kane doing as the mayor down there?
Taxes are down. Random second-degree burns from flames shooting up or out of random stuff are up, though, so it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, it's kind of a balance, though. But I tell you what, if your real estate value goes up, I'm okay with it. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
But what's on your mind?
Well, here's how big of a wrestling town Knoxville is. I went and had my taxes done recently. The place I had my taxes done is just autographed pictures of wrestlers all over the wall. Mongolian Stomper, like a lot of old school stuff.
That is so. Are you like? I mean, how big of a wrestling fan are you? I mean, are you pretty deep into it because of the Ron Fuller podcast over on the 605 or on the Arcadian Vanguard Network, and because Les Thatcher on our site has been talking about it, and the Knoxville 5, it's kind of been a big resurgence of that area and interest into that area. Have you felt any of that? Are you kind of into any of that? Or is it just like, hey, I like wrestling and that's a little bit too nerdy for me?
There's not a lot of talk around town about stuff like that. There's not too many great indie promotions around this area. There's a few small ones, but if you really want to dive into some interesting stuff, there's Whitey Caldwell back in the day. Buddy Landell was huge around here. There's a lot of other copycats. So Knoxville is a great wrestling town, but there's mostly just nostalgia right now. There's not a big wrestling scene here.
Yeah, just ironically, that studcast from Rod Fuller just covers, again, Whitey Caldwell's death in 1972. And on our site, Les Thatcher has talked about it a lot. It's like you don't, unless you were down there, even to this day, you can mention the name Whitey Caldwell, and people will, that remember, will give you stories about the battles with Ron Wright and his death. Just completely, Knoxville has been known in the wrestling area for a lot of really jolting things that have happened, whether it be the Knoxville 5 or, this here, this there. But Whitey Caldwell's death in 1972 is still, it's amazing that still resonates so much for you guys down there.
Knoxville's always been a town where you could go to get into a fight. We love fights, we love wrestling, and that's just kind of how this place rolls. But the reason I called is I had an important question for you specifically. Now that Road Dogg has some extra time on his hands, if he were to lace them up one more time and have a go with the Gambler, who do you think would win that one? And I will hang up and listen. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, man, Pat, thank you very much. Oh, boy. I tell you, that's rough. And I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, Mike, Road Dogg wants to beat you up. And I'm going to tell you, you're probably right. He still wants to smack me around. And I feel as though that maybe by saying Road Dogg and WWE could not book Jesus as a baby face, maybe I was a little over my skis there. Maybe I should not have used the Lord's name in that way. I can understand that. Road Dogg, a very religious person. You can see why he wanted to say hello with a little fist icon and then block me on Twitter, which led me to blocking him on Twitter because that's how this works. Average person, no. Other people, yes. And I'm glad that I got 5 on it, because I'm going to pull some out right now at this break, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to ponder a little about Nipsey Hussle, but also a little bit about the Gambler and Road Dogg, and give you my thoughts on who would win that epic battle when we get back. Wrestling Observer Live. I've thought about this, but I'm going to think about it some more, because there may be some people out there going, what is going on with Road Dogg? This actually came from, I believe it was Mike Johnson. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read off of that one. WWE Hall of Famer Brian James informed WWE yesterday that he was stepping down as the co-lead writer of the SmackDown brand. James had been heading up the brand with Steven Guerrieri, a.k.a. Steve G. Guerrieri, I don't know. I'm sorry, Steve. With James going on the road, while Steve would remain working out of WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. Sources cited James' increasing frustration with changes made to the SmackDown scripting by Vince McMahon, with James finally hitting, quote, a breaking point at this past Tuesday's SmackDown taping in Brooklyn, New York. On his Twitter account yesterday, James wrote, "Today I pray to face the change that is inevitably coming head on and with faith and courage. The only constant is change." And then a handful of hashtags. There's no word who may be replacing James in the role, although several WWE sources stated the way creative is currently driven, the lead writer is more of a formality today versus a specific voice that drives the show as everything is pitched, comes through the team for that series to Vince McMahon, is then approved or shot down by McMahon, who then tweaks the series all the way to the actual taping as late as during the taping. There's no confirmation yet on whether James will be transitioning to another position within WWE. So with that said, the Gambler would defeat Road Dogg. I'm not quite sure how he'd do it yet. He would probably miss that shake, rattle, and roll knee drop, slip up from behind. As Road Dogg turned around, the Gambler would reach in his tights. He would pull out the ace. Road Dogg would sit there shocked. Gambler gets the win. Hit him with any sort of move he would want. Takes the victory, and then that would be that. Road Dogg not the only one no longer working for WWE. Possibly not. He's possibly not working for WWE. R.D. Evans, the barrister, is absolutely not working for WWE. This was mentioned by Dave last night on the show with Brian Alvarez, and is around everywhere, the Fightful and Torch and One Wrestling. I think everybody's got something up, I assume at this point, Insider and such. Reportedly, Vince McMahon freaked out when he heard his name mentioned during a speech by Bret Hart at the Hall of Fame. Because of this, and because he hates his name being mentioned at the Hall of Fame in any way, he charged into gorilla position. He started cussing out, I guess, R.D. Evans, or started yelling at R.D. Evans, and Evans quit. Evans apparently just ate it, took it, kicked R.D. out of gorilla position. R.D. said, "I'll do you one better, I quit." He shook Vince's hand and rolled out. And according to Brian Alvarez, what he had heard was after Vince shook R.D.'s hand, he said something to the effect of, "I hope you learned a lesson." Just on-brand Vince, peak Vince, prime Vince. This is a man who suspended Titus O'Neil. Titus O'Neil, the nicest, most charitable, most benevolent person on the planet. The most gentlemanly, God-fearing man in WWE seemingly right now. Everybody loves Titus O'Neil. Titus grabbed Vince's arm to let Stephanie walk by and show a little chivalry at the close of a Raw several years ago. Vince lost it. How dare Titus touch me? Suspended him for, I believe it was it 60 days? Whatever it was through WrestleMania. It's kind of low rent. I don't know. Then again, when you're the boss, you can do things like that. Or take trips to Hawaii. We go back to the phone lines right now. 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Tony in Philadelphia. Tony, how are you?
Mike, what's going on, man?
What's good?
Hey, there's no Brian, so can we talk about Bryce Harper?
We can talk about Bryce Harper if you want to. I mean, you can talk about what that game looked like yesterday.
Hey, all I know is that Aaron Altair should be our closer after last night's game, because we do not have a bullpen at all. But anyway, I digress. I did want to talk about my WrestleMania weekend. I had a lot of fun. It was probably one of the best weekends I've ever had. I actually did not go to WrestleMania or TakeOver. The only 3 shows I actually ended up going to were MLW, where I did see Tom. I said hi. I went to the Stardom show, which is honestly probably my favorite show of the entire weekend. I also went to the MSG show, and while the Stardom show didn't have as much good wrestling as the Supercard show did, the Utami Hayashida and Momo Watanabe match was amazing. But overall, it was just the best experience because it was a real Stardom show. The girls were all so nice, and they took the time to speak to everyone. It was just basically probably the highlight of my weekend. But the best match I saw was hands down the Kota Ibushi Tetsuya Naito match. That match was nuts, especially to see live. Basically, every company that, performed that weekend brought the authentic experience of their promotions, and it was just an amazing atmosphere the whole weekend, and it was so much fun. But do you know who I didn't see, or I didn't see the whole weekend at all?
Who?
Brian Alvarez.
Really? Was he? Do you think he was hiding from you?
I DM'd him. I texted him. I emailed him. And I said, "Hey, are you going to this show? Are you going to this show?" And I seen him taking pictures on the concourse with people. I'm like, "Look, I'm going to be on a Brian and Vinny show. I want to set this up. I want to say hello. I want to meet you and tell you how awesome you are." And I didn't see him. And hopefully I can get in contact with him soon. But he looked like he had a good time, too. But just in the landscape in WWE in general as well, it just seems, and I've noticed this, does it appear this way to you, Mike, that whenever AEW does something, Vince kind of hits a little bit of a panic button and kind of goes into a weird kind of damage control?
There is something there that seemingly, it's like, to me, it's like the Dean Ambrose thing. You never had to mention Dean Ambrose's contract is coming up. Why? I mean, I get it. I don't even get it in the way of, well, the Shield is such a popular act or anything like that. I mean, there were ways to phase them out, but you never had to mention it. So I think, I mean, obviously we've seen it with, signings and things like that, and that was already being amplified anyway because of the ROH and New Japan relationship. as well, too. But, I mean, yeah, I guess. I just think they're at a weird time right now. And they're at this weird, again, they have a lot under their umbrella, and there's a lot that he controls but doesn't really control. And the stuff that he does control, which is some of the creative stuff on TV, I mean, it's like the Sami Zayn character. It's like, there's a lot of ways you can be a heel. Like, you saw Jay White on Saturday night,
Or Enzo.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways you can do it, and blaming the fans is one of those ways, and creating a character around that is one of those ways. Now, we'll see what happens with Sami Zayn, but, every time you see something like that, it's like we were thinking yesterday, it's like, at least to me, it's like, I wonder if this is just something cathartic coming from Vince and coming from the creative team, that, or something like that, but... when it comes to AEW, though, too, I don't know how you feel about it, but everything happens with AEW. Forget about Vince or WWE amplifying it. Everybody does. I mean, the only thing that didn't get a mention is the thing I wish would had this weekend, which was Hikaru Shida is now signed on with AEW, and she's going to put on some great women's matches or help their women's division. But it's like the TV deal.
She's moving to the U.S., too.
Well, that's even better. That's fantastic because she's going to be of value by far to the indie scene, and I don't know if she's going to be working exclusively but if she's working with Rise and with Shimmer, I mean, that's going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. Before I go, my last point, I'll drop off the line. Great solo show as always, Mike. I get the feeling that while Cody doesn't have an opponent and it looks like they're leaning towards MJF, I think the Double or Nothing match is going to be Cody against Jon Moxley. That's what I think. So we'll see.
Tony, I really appreciate that call, and I think you're probably right, because if Jon Moxley is available and ready to go at that point, and he's cleared to go at that point, I don't know. I got to look at the setup as far as would he be available by that point with the contract running out or the no-compete running out, however that works, however it's structured, we'll have to see going forward. But, yeah, that's the bigger match. So I guess you could do MJF and have, make some sort of connection where you go from Cody fighting the preppiest, most obnoxious kid in the world to the dirtiest, most nastiest Jon Moxley coming back to the indie scene and coming back to inflict damage. I think that would actually be that kind of those two going at it, I think, because I'm not looking for 5-star classics out of Jon Moxley or Cody because they can't give them to me anyway. Like, that type of matchup that's built more on promos and angles and dark, spooky video angles and things like those two, I think, could do a lot together. And I think that would actually be a really good deal. I really do. As I mentioned, things with AEW get hyped up fast, and they may or may not have a TV deal with Turner. Looks like they do. Here's the thing with that. I have heard, there's people in competition. They've just got to decide on what they want to do. I heard Turner, like I think everybody did, right from Jump Street. Right from Jump Street. So I'll be interested to find out who one of these other parties is. And we'll get into a little bit of that, as well as a bunch of other stuff as well, too, including your phone calls. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Mike Sempervive, Wrestling Observer Live. So I mentioned before the break, AEW is in talks with Turner on a broadcast deal that would see pro wrestling return their airwaves for the first time in 18 years. However, there is no signed deal as of now, reports our Dave Meltzer. This verifies a Thursday report in The Wrap that Tony Khan's new wrestling project is talking with the former home of WCW. However, Meltzer says that the idea in the piece of going with a season versus a year-round weekly product is not accurate. He cannot confirm TNT would be the destination for AEW, but that is one of the suitors in play. AEW has not commented at this point. Last week, new AEW hire Jim Ross said a 2-hour show will debut this October on a major cable network, which was verified by Meltzer on Sunday. Meltzer added the 2 major U.S. broadcast outfits that offer streaming services are interested in AEW. If this deal was to move forward, Turner has several possible homes for AEW programming in addition to their sports-centric streaming service, BR Live. Turner Sports did dabble in a streaming pay-per-view last Thanksgiving with the Tiger Woods vs. Phil Mickelson Golf Challenge. but it was a technical disaster which led to the stream being made available for everyone free of charge and refunds for those who paid. And if I recall correctly, it was not cheap. They were hoping for that money. For decades, Turner was the home for pro wrestling on TBS and TNT, a relationship that ended when Turner canceled wrestling on both stations, as everyone knows, in 2001. At some point today, if you are listening live to this on Thursday, or really at any point on Thursday, head on over to WrestlingObserver.com, and for subscribers, the Wrestling Observer newsletter will be out. It is probably this week, with everything that took place this weekend, probably, give or take, 399,000 words. And he's going to have more information on it then. As I mentioned, Turner has been the one everyone has known from Jump Street. What was the other one? I heard different things bandied about. I was always amazed it wasn't Spike, although I completely understand why Paramount did not want to get back into that game. I heard Showtime. Why Showtime now, I guess, would have made sense if that was ever even true to begin with, would be because if there's a possibility that HBO was a part of this conversation, I don't know. I don't know how this anything was ever presented to Time Warner. We'll have to wait and on what history tells us and what Big Dave and Tony and the boys all tell us about what actually happened and what went on here. But TNT, TBS, I guess True TV, if I'm not mistaken, is a part of that as well. That might be a destination. No matter where you were going to go, an app was going to play a part in things. Somebody that could handle your streaming, your quarterly pay-per-views, or your big events, your double or nothings. That was going to be in play. Bleacher Report always seemed like a really obvious choice because DAZN is full up to here and are already raising prices. ESPN Plus, just no matter how you try to shape it, AEW was, I'm not going to say it was an awful fit. You got look, ESPN, I saw not long ago, had axe throwing competitions. Like, we are past Magnus von Magnuson, and like we're down to cornhole and ish like that, and granted, it's probably barter time. I don't know, it's not like it's important programming or anything like that. So, it's an example, anything could end up on ESPN Plus, but I just never got that feeling that they would be, no pun intended, all in on the wrestling business, especially when they after they got UFC. Everything else is just, why kick out money for anything wrestling right now when you've kicked out a bunch of money for the UFC and you can have a bunch of nonsense programming and other things that you have related to your college deals. Not sure who else there could have been. WGN? That one made sense, especially with Sinclair not being involved and not looking like they were going to buy that and buy into the stake on the Food Network, I believe it is. Would have been the other thing they would have got as part of that deal with Tribune. WGN makes complete and total sense. From there, I don't know. I always loved the idea of Cartoon Network somehow. The whole Adult Swim thing. I think there were possibilities there, although the problem there, and the obvious problem, and I know this, is just the fact that you're not mass marketing there. You're not big time. You're not going to be worth the money going in that direction. It is way too small to think of. So we'll just have to see what happens. But as soon as that news dropped, it sent everybody kind of into a tizzy yesterday for a little while. Really, Dave on Twitter. So AEW's got this Fighter Fest thing too. They've done promos to play off the Fire Festival. Kenny Omega and Pac going to captain a 6-man tag match at All Elite Wrestling's little deal they have tied in with the CEO Fighting Game Championships, with Kenny Omega's deal from last year. New Japan was involved, the When Worlds Collide show last year. That was in Daytona in June. This one's going to be in the same place, June 29th. Omega and the Young Bucks against Pac, Pentagon Jr., and Phoenix. That's pretty good. Pac, Pentagon Jr., and Phoenix is a team I like. I like that. I'll probably never see this show, though. if this is a match on a gaming show, I'm out. My kid might watch it. Probably that's. I don't think got too much going on here. Although apparently CEO organizer Alex Jabali against AEW's Michael Nakazawa in a hardcore match is also set for Fyter Fest, with it being a rematch of their comedy match from the CEO and JPW pre-show. Anybody see that? No? I like Michael Nakazawa, though. He was always entertaining over in Japan. Going to be serving the same comedic role here, I guess. Not sure what else he's going to be doing, obviously being bilingual. I would, figure he's going to be a liaison. It would make sense, an agent, things like that. Especially when people like Hikaru Shida, coming over to work full-time here and things like that. And again, she's a name probably not a lot of people know. I know that her and Aja Kong, she's been around a while now. She's a good look, Again, we'll have to see where that women's division goes and if they're able to hook up with anybody on the regular. They're kind of pulling people from where they can right now. Tokyo Joshi Pro. I'm not even sure. I guess she was technically still Oz Academy. Shida was, but I'm not even sure. She's been out there and freelancing about. So we'll just have to see what they're going to be able to do. Miyu Yamashita is still the one where. That's going to be a real feather. And I think if they end up doing any work and they're able to get Meiko Satomura over, I think that's going to be big. Because I think Meiko Satomura in this, I'm not the biggest intergender fan in the world. I'm not against it really in any way. It's just that, it's like, I tend to like sports. And my form of pro wrestling always kind of came from sports. So I'm completely fine with having a separate men's and women's division. It's just really that simple. There's intergender match on the card, great. But if you're going to do an intergender match and you want to have somebody that is as believable as they come, although size-wise maybe you could say there would be an issue, but respect-wise there is no issue for anybody who's a wrestling fan, and that's going to be a promotion and that is filled with wrestling fans. Meiko Satomura would be perfect. Because Meiko Satomura, I would believe, in real life can beat up Michael Nakazawa. In fact, I'm not 100% sure that she can't beat up Kenny Omega. I'm pretty sure she could shoot on Cody. And I may be exaggerating a touch there, but she's awesome. And if willing to come over on the regular, she'd be great. And with her, bring over Chihiro Hashimoto. And relive one of their matches. And then people might want to see, Sendai over more. And some of those, they have the opportunity to do what ROH completely has crapped out. And that's build a unique and exciting women's division. And I'm not bad-mouthing WWE at all or NXT or anything like that. It's a completely different ballgame at this point. But, there's Shimmer and there's Rise in the States here. But if there's, Ring of Honor is the next biggest promotion. And they've got Mandy Leon. They've got Velvet Sky, Angelina Love, Jenny Rose. Who else? Not much else. Kelly Klein. How could I forget about Kelly Klein? So it's kind of hard times. And they had seemingly their pick of working with Shimmer and with Stardom and with Tokyo Joshi Pro and Oz and Sendai and all of these other Wave, Diana, all of these other women's groups. And this is where they're sitting right now. So AEW's got a big niche that they can fill very easily, and it looks like that they are. And it looks like they're serious about it. Are we supposed to give Brandy credit for this too? I'm not sure. There's a UFC show this weekend, which we're going to talk about probably a little bit more tomorrow. I'm not sure if it's going to be me solo tomorrow. Maybe I pick somebody up, do a little talking of the UFC Interim Lightweight Championship between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. Holloway's a big favorite as it stands right now. I believe he's like 225, minus 225, Poirier plus 185. One of the most key things about this one is the fact that this is the first pay-per-view where you must be a ESPN Plus member. to have access to order the pay-per-view. I hope this works out okay. And I hope they have some of the amenities that I'm used to, because a lot of times I will order through UFC because I like the ability to have the fighter chatter in the corner chatter. I like the ability to have the multiple camera feeds and all that. I assume all that stuff is still going to be there, and hopefully they improve upon all of that sort of stuff. We'll see. I hope so. If it's just a portal to get the regular TV feed, I'm going to be kind of ticked. It's an interesting gamble, but it's also ESPN. They can just kind of force it in whenever they want to. Same way Dom just forced in that Blues Brothers break. Be back to put a bow on this thing. Wrestling Observer Live.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live with Brian Alvarez and Mike Sempervive on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
So I did watch NXT UK. It was taped on February 23rd in Coventry. Travis Banks defeated Cassius Ohno. Which made me think of two things. Where is TK Cooper right now? Is he hurt? Is he still with Dahlia Black? Is that still a thing? Because for a while they were a big thing, and then I don't know what happened. Well, she's probably making huge money somewhere, and I just missed it. But defeated Cassius Ohno. Cassius Ohno, I want Ryota Hama to come in one of these NXT weekends at WrestleMania week, and I don't know how they're going to get him here, but needs to go in there, and they can just be big, fat, angry dudes, just with making the best faces in the world. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. Ohno's a big dude. He's always been a big dude. This has always been a thing with him, but damn it, he is so good. And damn it, he is such a pro. And God, I really want to see him and Hama team up and just make facial expressions. I think it would just be hilarious. But they had a fun little match. Piper Niven debuted, which was cool. She got a quick win. Joseph Connors and Jack Stars wrestled. I can't even tell you what happened there. Kind of drifted off there. But Toni Storm defeated Ginny. And if Ginny didn't face Toni Storm, I believe she would be undefeated in her WWE career. She had like 3 singles matches against Toni Storm, including like the Mae Young. Lost them all. In NXT, she's 6-0. Except for the 2 losses she has to Toni Storm. She's got to talk to her agent there. Talk to somebody. Stop facing Toni Storm. You're going to lose. Fun little show, though. I hope this was a fun little show for all of you, too. Whether you like it or not, it's going to be back tomorrow, because we're here with you every single day, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, 7 GMT, Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 10 GMT. My name is Mike Sempervive. I'd like to thank producer Dom, not only for his work today behind the glass, but for the read of that commercial. Ladies and gentlemen, we will talk to you again after a while.
Taming the briar patch, mowing the lawn, trimming the Yeti. Whatever you call it, it's about time we talk about manscaping. Guys, you manscape, right? You know, keep things trimmed and fresh below the waist. 9 out of 10 women of all ages prefer their guy manscaped. But you got to have the right tools for the jewels, or you'll look like you used a machete. Pop over to manscaped.com and check out their perfect package. Not that perfect package. The Manscaped Perfect Package 2.0 that was a smash hit on Shark Tank. It features the lawnmower, a precision trimmer engineered for below-the-waist grooming. Its skin-safe technology means no more accidental nicks and burns. Check out the lawnmower and the amazing grooming and hygiene products that come with your perfect package. What's that saying? Trim the shrubs and the tree stands taller? Get 20% off plus free shipping today. Visit manscaped.com and use promo code RING. Again, use promo code RING at manscaped.com. Manscaped.com.